Hi, I'm Bailey Bennett Andrade, DEI Media Marketer. In the following presentation, you will hear from co-founder of the Center, Dolores Lindsay, as she suggests using breakthrough questions in your work to becoming culturally proficient.
Hi, I'm Dolores Lindsay. We have the opportunity now to talk about a strategy and a protocol called breakthrough questions. Breakthrough questions were created when we realized that folks got stuck, usually in the assessing stage, using the continuum, the tool of the continuum. And we realized that people were just stuck on the left side of the continuum. We're not talking about bad people, we're just talking about people who are stuck in predictability, stuck in the current reality, not really knowing how to get to their desired state. It would be phrases like, well, as long as I don't have any of those kids in my class, or, those kids just can't reach the level that I need them to. Or it could be a stuckness around certain groups. Those parents just don't care. So it could be cultural destructiveness or incapacity or even blindness. They're doing the best they can for who they are. Or, I teach all kids just alike. Diversity is not that important as long as we treat all kids just alike. So, as coaches and educators, we wonder then how do we reframe our conversations? And it's not by using responses to argue, it's by using questions. And we call those breakthrough questions. And we're really going to use the tool called the five essential elements. Now, those five essential elements are verbs. So that means there's action involved. So, what we're going to do is shape and craft questions that open the thinking of the person you're talking to. By that, I mean they're just stuck in their own learning and their own processes. So, those five essential elements are assess cultural knowledge, value diversity, manage the dynamics of diversity, adapt to diversity in the changing communities, and then institutionalize what we're learning about the processes. So if we focus on those five essential elements, then we really can reframe conversations from stuckness to transformative action, from the left side of the continuum over to the right side of the continuum. So in coaching, we're also thinking about the states of mind of people, the internal resources that people have, their confidence, their efficacy that they feel, or the flexibility that they might have lost, or even building the craft that they have. So we're drawing from our states of mind as well as those five essential elements that we talk about of cultural proficiency. Now, when we run into barriers, it's usually out of the tool that we talk about of overcoming those barriers. Those barriers they're in the system in which we work, systemic racism. They're the system of oppression, they're the systemic results of privilege and entitlement. So those comments are there from that we hear over and over again, some of the same comments. And they're the same comments that folks hear day in and day out. So you hear, especially people of color and women that hear over and over again, well, this is not a program for women, or this job is not designed for women. And so we're looking for how do we break through those comments. So we can't ask questions, or we'll avoid asking questions that have yes or no answers. An example might be sometimes we think if we just give advice, and we might start a question with, have you ever tried? Have you ever tried calling parents at home? The answer is, yeah, I tried that and that didn't work. Or, well, no, I'm not going to try because they're not at home. I know they're not, they don't even have telephones. We can't even reach them. Yes or no or dead end. So we try to avoid those kinds of questions because those are actually barrier questions as well. We want to avoid the why question. Now, sometimes why questions are good. They could be thinking questions, but in this case, we're going to avoid them. The why question causes judgment, and it causes a sounds judgmental and causes a defensiveness. Why did you do it that way? Why would you think that would be a good response? So you can hear it in the tone of voice. Why is not a good breakthrough response. It's a barrier response. It causes a person to go on the defensive. Well, I thought that was the right way. Well, I don't know why I did it that way. So we want to create questions that open up the thinking, and that's why we call them breakthrough questions. Breakthrough questions help mediate that person's thinking from where they're stuck to maybe where they want to be. They don't want to be stuck. They want to move forward. Breakthrough questions create new possibilities. So we keep it open. What might be? What might be some? We want to move through using breakthrough questions as often as possible. When somebody's working on lesson plans, when it's administrators in observations, it could be in examining values and beliefs. It could be in surfacing assumptions. It could be in working with educators around student behavior or discipline plans. So in order to create the breakthrough question, we don't want to just ask question after question. That sounds like interrogation. So we want to start with a paraphrase. And of course, we know that paraphrase is really, a paraphrase is really the essence of what that person is saying. It's not the exact words, and we want to kind of give them back their words for their own thinking, not for clarity on my point, on my part. And it's a different kind of paraphrase that we use. It's not the psychologist paraphrase of what I hear you saying is, or it seems to me you're thinking. So we're going to set the pronoun I aside, and we're going to use the pronoun you. So for you, you're frustrated about what you might do next. Or for you, you're wondering why some kids are just not excelling at the level that you want them to. You're a little nervous about. So you're really paraphrasing both the emotion and the content. And you say, well, aren't you putting words in their mouth? No, you're not. You're taking their words and actually giving them the essence of it, both the emotion and the content of what they're saying. So what if you get the paraphrase wrong? They'll tell you. They'll say, no, that's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm feeling. It's more like I'm just frustrated. Or, yeah, I'm really angry and I'm really upset. So they'll let you know if you're on target with the paraphrase. And then you're ready to craft that breakthrough question. So you're going to think about just a little on ramp of, it can sound like, so given the values that we hold in this district for equity and inclusion, now you're ready for the inquiry part, open-ended. What might be some, or in what ways have we, opening it up again. And then it's always about inclusion language, uh, including ourselves, and what might be some, in what ways have we, who else might be. So what might be some other resources. So you're really opening up for inclusion. And then you want to mediate toward action. In what ways have we assessed? And there's the 5 essential elements. In what ways do we value? What might be another way to manage the dynamics of conversation or communication? How might be some ways to adapt to the changing community in which we're working now? So you're using those 5 essential elements to give action within that question. And there's the breakthrough possibility. In the world of cognitive coaching, we're using words to help shift the thinking of the person you're coaching. So their brain is going to latch on to assessing or valuing, and the brain starts thinking about, well, what might I do to shift my own thinking? You'll know you've asked a breakthrough question when the person says, I don't know, I haven't thought about that. Or they might say, um, well, you know, I don't know yet. I'll have to think about that. Or they may walk away and say, you know what, I'll get back to you on that. Or you'll know you've asked a good breakthrough question when a couple of weeks from now, that person will contact you and say, you know, that question you asked me about how we can work together on that issue, I'm ready to talk about now. I've really been thinking about that. So some of the kinds of breakthrough opportunities we have, let's just kind of work on a couple and see how you do. So what if you heard a colleague say, well, you know, those trailer park kids just can't do the work that I require in my class. Think about that. So if you're the coach or a teacher colleague or an administrator or a district office administrator, and you heard a colleague make that comment, what would be your response? Now, I've tried a lot of things before, and blaming doesn't get you anywhere. Like, how could you say something like that? And you put that person on the defensive. Now, that's a question. How could you say that? Why would you say something like that? That's a barrier to their thinking. So, thinking about the 5 essential elements and breaking through that, you can either probe gently and say, when you say those kids, who specifically are you talking about? Now you're asking the person to think deeply about the students we serve. And then to, again, open up their thinking. So when you describe the particular kids you're talking about, what might be a school-wide effort that we could do, something we could work on together to help meet the needs of those particular kids so that all students could achieve at a higher level? And you leave that question there. And it's for them to think of. You don't answer the question for them. You leave it for them to think about. And you just let them think. So another barrier question, we're very familiar with. I'm not making these up. These are barrier comments that we hear often. Well, what do we do about the parents that just don't come to school, or they don't return our calls? You know, they just don't care about their kids. Well, we can agree with that. We can say, well, yeah, that's been my experience. We can say a paraphrase. So you're concerned about kids whose parents are not returning calls, or you're worried about some kids in your class. Well, yeah, I am worried. So a breakthrough question then might be, you know, given the value that we have for school attendance or working on parent engagement like we've been, what might be something that we could work on together so that we can ensure our parents a way to connect with us here at school? Another one is, you know, I'm thinking about that also. What might be something we haven't thought of yet that would engage parents in a different way? What might be something that if we work together on it collaboratively could really answer that question that you have, could cause us to connect with parents in ways we've never connected before? So what you're trying to do with breakthrough questions is really to break through that stuckness. The person, they've already tried lots of things. They're just absolutely stuck. We also call this what to do when you don't know what to do. And so the person is really at that point of they don't know what to do. And it may sound like they're complaining, but really it's just that they're in a place of stuckness and they're asking you, so what do you think we should do? And they've really tried a lot of things. So giving them advice, starting with a question like, have you tried? Or when was the last time, is really not going to break through their thinking. It's really going to put them on the defensive. So think in terms of valuing diversity, assessing cultural knowledge, managing the dynamics of difference? What might be some ways that we can examine our current discipline policy in ways that we could manage it differently that would show the value that we hold for all students? Breaking through the old way of thinking about what discipline are we going to use for kids that don't check in virtually, or what ways are we going to connect with parents when they don't show up? So again, posing those questions in ways to break through their thinking. We've had this time together, now it's time for you to try your own breakthrough questions. In the second edition of Culturally Proficient Coaching, actually in the back of the book, we've given you the whole protocol, step by step by step. And it's a way for you to shape your own thinking so that you can break through when you get stuck on why are we doing it this way? How are we going to do it next time? So using those 5 essential elements, paraphrasing first, and thinking in terms of what is the issue I'm working with, and how do I break through my thinking as well as break through the thinking of the colleagues, members of the organization with whom I'm working. Hope this has been helpful to you. Let us know how we can help. We'll work on it together and break through those barriers. Thank you so much.